maybe from Indonesia or Malaysia. And when you look at the demographics of Muslims around the world, you actually find that the one country in the world that has the largest population of Muslims is an Asian country, Indonesia, which has over 200 million Muslims. And you find that less than 1/5 of the Muslims around the world are Arab or Middle Eastern descent. Less than 20% of Muslims in the world are from the Middle East. You have a large, significant population of Muslims in Southeast Asia and the other Asian countries. You have a significant Muslim minority in the European countries. You have a large, significant population of Muslims in Sub-Saharan Africa that actually outnumbers those in the Middle East. And Islam is the fastest growing religion in the United States. For me, this was an eye-opening experience because I saw Muslims from all over the world on any particular day in Mecca. Muslims from Africa, then Muslims from Russia and other European countries, Arab Muslims. I even met some other Muslims from America on these 4 days. They were Islamic studies students. They were studying Islam traditionally in Medina, which is Islam's second holiest city. So this was an eye-opening experience for me, a new Muslim who had converted on a doctoral level and seeing this vast diversity displayed in Islam. And this was something that was instilled in me as a youngster here in the United States. Went to social studies class. And what did I learn? That America, its people, essentially, if you're not Native American, our ancestors come from somewhere outside the United States. They came to America through places like Ellis Island and immigrated here. This was the diversity that was instilled in me as a youngster. This was the diversity that I saw displayed in Islam. You could say maybe I had a Malcolm X-like type experience. And that was inspiring for me. And that was what was the catalyst to inspire me to get deeper into the spirituality of Islam, to want to know much more than just the doctrinal level of the religion that I had converted to. After serving in the military for a few years, I would leave active duty and pursue further studies in Islam traditionally, to learn a little bit of the Arabic language, to be able to recite the Holy Quran properly, and study under traditional Muslim scholars. I ended up in Damascus, Syria, after making the formal pilgrimage, the Hajj, twice. I made the pilgrimage twice, so now I myself am becoming a religious Muslim. But now I was studying with Muslim scholars. And after some years of study, I would come back to the United States in late 2000, after I had learned that I could re-enter the ranks of our military and become a chaplain. When I converted to Islam and when I served in the Gulf, this was a time when the numbers of Muslims in the ranks were actually increasing. I had heard that perhaps 5,000, maybe 7,000 American GIs had converted to Islam during the first Gulf War as a result of their experience in the Middle East. But at that time, there were no Muslim chaplains. There were Jewish chaplains, there were Christian chaplains, but there weren't any Muslim chaplains at that time. And I actually questioned as a new Muslim, how would Muslims be properly represented if there were no Muslim chaplains? And I thought maybe one day I would become a Muslim chaplain. An idea that I carried as a new Muslim. But when I came back in the military in January of 2001 as a Muslim chaplain, I wasn't the first Muslim chaplain. By this time, there were now a few Muslim chaplains serving in the Navy. There were a few Muslim chaplains serving in the Air Force. And there was even a small handful now serving in the Army. There were about 10 Muslim chaplains or so now on active duty. But in January of 2001, I was the newest Muslim chaplain. In January 2001, I was the newest Muslim chaplain. We fast forward just 9 short months later to September 2001. September 11th, 2001. The tragic attacks on the World Trade Center, the attack on the Pentagon, United 93 flight which went down in Pennsylvania, all happened on September 11th. Immediately following those attacks, I was someone who senior level leaders in the military would turn to. And they would ask me to begin discussing Islam, the religion, to people serving our ranks, to U.S. service members, soldiers. And I began to hold these lectures. these briefings, these training sessions about Islam and the Muslim culture. Following those attacks on 9/11, many soldiers had questions about Islam. Many Americans during that time, following those attacks on 9/11, had questions about Islam. But my audience, being a Muslim chaplain, were those serving. And I would hold these lessons, I would hold these briefings, and I would answer many of the soldiers and service members' questions about Islam. And as a result, many of them came away with a better understanding. I began to receive enormous praise and recognition from leaders in the Pentagon, from leaders in the State Department, from my role as someone who was building bridges, who was educating our service members about the Muslim culture. And perhaps that recognition was what then would get me handpicked to become the Muslim chaplain to serve down in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The location of the controversial prison camp, where we find today some 485 individuals held captive, all of whom are also Muslim. When I was sent there in November of 2002, the numbers were much greater. There were some 660 or so prisoners. Again, all of them were Muslim. And I even speculated, why was I being sent to Guantanamo as the Muslim chaplain? I speculated that it was because our government wanted to simply say, we have 660 or so prisoners down in Guantanamo, all of whom are Muslim, but we also have our Muslim chaplain down here to provide them religious accommodation. It was a way that we could say, as a nation, we were being very sensitive to the religious needs of these Muslim prisoners, and it should be an indication to the world that we were treating these prisoners in a humane fashion. I speculated that that's why I was being sent to Guantanamo. Maybe that was the reason why I was sent to Guantanamo. Maybe it wasn't. But when I got to Guantanamo, I learned of two distinct roles that I would play. The first was to be an advisor to the camp commander down in Guantanamo, to advise on this unique religious paradigm where we do find that each and every individual held captive in Guantanamo is a Muslim. To advise on how the religious routine of these prisoners and the religious observances of these Muslim prisoners affected this detention operation. That was one role. The second role was to be a Muslim chaplain, not only to these 660 prisoners, but also to the many American Muslims who were down in Guantanamo. American translators, most of whom were American Muslims. And they were actually essentially my congregation. They attended my weekly worship service on Fridays, the Islamic prayer service, held on Friday afternoons. I was a Muslim chaplain to these American personnel. But I was also a Muslim chaplain to the Muslim prisoners. And in that role, I was given, by the command, authorized unescorted access into these prison cell blocks. One of the very few individuals who was able to speak freely and openly with the prisoners, and even listen to them. In the military, we say that a chaplain, a good chaplain, is a good listener. So I focused my efforts, my intentions on really listening to these individuals who are held captive.